Life journey of Vladimir Putin. Imagine growing up in a small apartment in a country still recovering from war with very little comfort but a mind full of ambition. In the narrow streets of Leningrad, a young boy learnt early that life was not easy. The environment around him was rough. The challenges were real and survival often depended on strength and determination. That boy was Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. No one at that time could have imagined that this quiet child from a modest family would one day rise to become one of the most powerful and discussed leaders in the world. But history often begins in ordinary places. As a young student, Putin developed a fascination with discipline, strategy, and intelligence work. Inspired by stories of secret agents and national service, he dreamed of joining the powerful Soviet intelligence agency known as the KGB. Step by step, through education, training, and determination, he moved closer to the dream. Yet, life had bigger plans for him. The fall of the Soviet Union would shake the world and completely change the direction of his career. From intelligence officer to political strategist to eventually becoming the president of Russia. His journey is a story of discipline, ambition, power, and controversy. Some people see him as a strong leader who restored national pride. Others view him as one of the most controversial figures in modern politics. But whether admired or criticized, one thing is undeniable. Vladimir Putin's life journey has left a powerful mark on world history. So, today let us explore the remarkable path of a man who rose from the streets of Leningrad to the center of global power. This is the life journey of Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin was born on October 7, 1952 in the historic city of Leningrad, which is now called St. Petersburg. His early life was far from luxurious. Putin grew up in a small communal apartment where several families shared kitchens and bathrooms. Life in post war Soviet Russia was difficult. Resources were limited, and many families struggled to rebuild their lives after the devastation of World War II. Putin's parents were simple, hardworking people. His father worked in a factory while his mother struggled to manage the household. They were not wealthy, but they believed strongly in discipline and resilience. As a child, Putin was known to be energetic and curious, but also stubborn. The streets where he grew up were tough. Young boys often had to defend themselves in fights or prove their strength among peers. Instead of allowing those challenges to break him, Putin chose to transform himself. He decided to become stronger, not just physically but mentally. At the age of around 12, he began practicing martial arts, especially judo and sambo. These sports were not just about fighting, they were about strategy, balance, patience, and control. Through martial arts, Putin learned an important life lesson. Sometimes the strongest person is not the one who attacks first, but the one who waits patiently and chooses the right time. These lessons stayed with him for the rest of his life. As he grew older, Putin also developed a fascination with history, politics, and intelligence agencies. History about spies and secret missions captured his imagination. At a very young age, he decided something unusual for a teenager. He wanted to become an intelligence officer. It was an ambitious dream for a boy from a small apartment in Leningrad, but ambition had already started growing inside him, and that ambition would soon guide the direction of his entire life. As Vladimir Putin entered his teenage years, his dream became clearer. He wanted to work for the powerful Soviet intelligence organization known as the KGB. The KGB was one of the most secretive and influential institutions in the Soviet Union. Its officers were responsible for intelligence gathering, national security, and strategic operations around the world. For many people, joining the KGB seemed nearly impossible, but Putin believed that determination could open doors that seemed closed. To prepare himself for his goal, he enrolled in Leningrad State University where he studied law. During his university years, Putin was known as a disciplined student. He continued practicing judo and maintained a quiet but focused personality. He wasn't the loudest student in the room, but he was often the most observant. In 1975, after completing his law degree, Putin finally achieved his dream. He joined the KGB. His early work involved intelligence training and internal assignments within the Soviet system. Later, he was sent to Dresden, which was then part of East Germany. Working abroad was an important step in his career. It exposed him to international politics and the complex tensions between world powers during the Cold War. In Dresden, Putin worked quietly and methodically. Intelligence work demanded patience, secrecy, and strategic thinking. Unlike politicians who spoke loudly in public, intelligence officers often worked silently behind the scenes. These years taught Putin how power often operates quietly away from the spotlight. However, history was about to take a dramatic turn, and that turn would completely change the future of Putin and his country. The year 1991 was one of the most dramatic turning points in modern history. The mighty Soviet Union, which had once been one of the world's two superpowers, suddenly collapsed. For millions of people, the political and economic system they had known for decades disappeared almost overnight. For Vladimir Putin, this moment was deeply personal. At the time, he was still connected to the Soviet intelligence structure. Watching the collapse of the Soviet Union left a strong impression on him. Later in life, he described this event as one of the greatest geopolitical tragedies of the 20th century. After the collapse, Putin decided to leave his intelligence career and enter public administration and politics. He returned to his hometown St. Petersburg, where he began working with the city's mayor Anatoly Sobchak. Sobchak was a reform minded leader who believed in modernizing Russia and opening it to the world. Working under Sobchak allowed Putin to gain experience in government operations, diplomacy, and political negotiations. It was during this time that Putin began to build connections in the national political system. Slowly but steadily, his reputation as a disciplined and reliable administrator began to grow, and soon leaders in Moscow started to notice him. This recognition would soon open the door to the most powerful position in the country. In 1999, Vladimir Putin was appointed Prime Minister of Russia by the country's President Boris Yeltsin. At that time, Russia was experiencing economic struggles, political instability, and declining public confidence in leadership. Many people did not know much about Putin when he first became prime minister. But events moved quickly. On December 31st, 1999, Boris Yeltsin made a historic announcement. He resigned from office and appointed Vladimir Putin as the acting president of Russia. Suddenly, the former intelligence officer from Leningrad was standing at the center of Russian power. In 2000, Putin ran in the presidential election and won. His leadership style emphasized strength, stability, and national pride. During the early years of his presidency, Russia's economy began to recover, partly due to rising energy prices and internal reforms. Many citizens felt that Putin had restored order after the chaotic 1990s. However, his leadership style also sparked debates both inside Russia and around the world. Some praised his determination, others raised concerns about the concentration of power. But one fact remained clear: Putin had become one of the most influential leaders of the 21st century. Over the years, Vladimir Putin's leadership continued to shape Russia's role in global politics. He emphasized strengthening the military, protecting national interests, and restoring Russia's position as a major global power. Supporters believe his policies brought stability, national pride, and stronger international influence. Critics argue that his government limited political opposition and centralized authority. Regardless of these differing opinions, Putin has remained a central figure in world politics for more than 2 decades. Few leaders in modern history have held influence for such a long period of time. From a modest childhood in Leningrad to commanding the halls of the Kremlin, Putin's journey reflects how discipline, ambition, and strategic thinking can shape a remarkable political path. His story continues to evolve even today, as Russia remains a key player in global affairs. History will ultimately decide how future generations interpret his legacy. But one thing is certain: the boy who once dreamed of serving his country through intelligence work ended up leading the country itself. Personal and family life of Vladimir Putin. His family came from very modest and hardworking backgrounds. Putin's father, Vladimir Spiridonovich Putin, worked in a factory and had served in Soviet Navy before World War II. During the war, he also fought in the Soviet army and was injured during the conflict. His mother, Maria Ivanovna Putina, worked in different labor jobs and focused on raising her family during difficult economic times. Life in their small apartment was simple. They lived in a communal building where multiple families shared kitchens and bathrooms. This type of living arrangement was common in the Soviet Union during those years. Putin's parents were known to be quite disciplined and resilient people. They believed in hard work and perseverance, values that strongly influenced their son's character. Putin was actually the youngest of 3 children, but sadly, his 2 older brothers died during childhood before he was born. One of them passed away during the difficult years of siege of Leningrad, a tragic event during World War II that caused immense suffering in the city. Growing up as the only surviving child, Putin became the center of his parents' attention and hopes. In 1983, Vladimir Putin married Lyudmila Alexandrovna Putina. Lyudmila worked as an flight attendant before their marriage. Their relationship began before Putin's international intelligence assignments. The couple spent several years together while Putin was working as a KGB officer in Dresden, which at that time was part of East Germany. Life during those years was relatively quiet and private. As an intelligence officer's family, secrecy and discretion were an important part of their lifestyle. The couple had two daughters, Maria Orontsova, Katerina Tikhonova. Putin has always been extremely protective about his daughter's privacy. They were raised mostly away from public attention and media exposure. As his political career grew, Putin became one of the most powerful leaders in the world, but his family life remained largely hidden from the public eye. In 2013, Vladimir Putin and Lyudmila publicly announced that they were divorcing after nearly 30 years of marriage. Both described the separation as mutual and respectful. Despite being one of the most powerful political figures, Vladimir Putin is known to have several personal interests and hobbies. One of his biggest passions is martial arts, especially judo. Putin began practicing judo as a teenager and later became highly skilled in the sport. He even earned a black belt and has written about the philosophy of judo. For him, martial arts are not just about fighting, they represent discipline, balance, and strategic thinking. Putin is also known to enjoy activities like ice hockey, swimming, horse riding, outdoor adventures in nature. These activities are often shown in Russian media to portray him as a strong and active leader. However, compared to many global leaders, Putin is known for maintaining a very private personal life. He rarely discusses family matters publicly and prefers to keep many details of his private life confidential. This privacy has made his personal life a topic of curiosity around the world. The personal life of Vladimir Putin reveals a different side of the powerful political figure seen on the global stage. Behind the leader known for strong political decisions is a man shaped by humble childhood, disciplined parents, martial arts training, and a strong sense of privacy. From a modest family in Leningrad to leading Russia, his journey reflects how early family influences can shape a person's character and ambitions. From the narrow streets of Leningrad to the powerful halls of the Moscow Kremlin, the life journey of Vladimir Putin shows how a person from a humble background can rise to stand at the center of world politics. A boy who once practiced discipline through martial arts, a young man who dreamed of serving his country through the KGB, eventually became the leader of Russia. His journey has been filled with ambition, strategy, challenges, admiration, and criticism. Some see him as a leader who stored strength and stability to his nation. Others see him as one of the most controversial figures in modern political history. But regardless of opinions, his story reminds us of one powerful truth. History is often shaped by individuals who rise from ordinary beginnings and step into extraordinary roles. And Vladimir Putin's journey is one of those stories that continues to influence the world even today. If you enjoy learning powerful life journeys of world leaders, thinkers, and legends, make sure to subscribe to this channel and join us for more inspiring and thought provoking stories. Every story we explore here is not just about history, it's about the lessons, decisions, and mindset that shape extraordinary lives.